And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to race number 23 of the season for the RTG Winston Cup Series. This is also race number, I believe, 10 of 13 for segment 2 of the Winston Cup Series as well. We're here tonight at the Michigan International Raceway getting ready for what should be, in a way, possibly super speedway type racing. But I'm Seth Cole alongside of Jessica Shelton, who came out and took a couple of laps here. So Jess, what are these drivers going to be dealing with at this 2 mile speedway?
I was getting information from Dante for a moment there, and he's the league admin. He was just informing me real quick that the fuel window is apparently a little bit short of 25 laps, Seth. But yeah, from what I could tell when I got on track, it was a blast. I really, really like the setup. It's kind of making me kick myself that I'm not racing this, but it's. I went out flat out for a little bit, for like maybe a lap or two, and then the tires just started coming in, and I was having so much bad tire wear, and well, that's something we're gonna have to see here because the 1 and 2, the bottom worked fine for me. 3 and 4, it pushed up, so these guys are gonna have to be careful with their speed entering the corner, not to push up and hit someone. This is a wide track, so we're talking 3, 4 wide maybe at times, so they all got to be careful with how they maneuver around each other. Plus, when that tire wear comes in, backing off in the corner, and like Dante explained to me earlier, back in June, I believe he said the fuel bug bit him and he ran out of gas. So it's going to be fun to see. I mean, we got realistic damage, realistic weather. This is going to be one great race at CTS Physics.
And these drivers actually ran Michigan about maybe 2 months ago, about maybe a month and a
Drivers,
half
start your
ago. And Robert
engines!
Bauckham went to victory lane. He's on the outside of the front row here today with Tim Knopfsker on the pole position. But I want to quickly just touch again on what you were talking about, what these drivers are going to deal with on the long run. It kind of seems to me if they are going to have to deal with that tire wear, even 3 laps in, we're going to see a lot of passing for position when they have those fresh tires in maybe the first 2 or 3 laps.
Yeah, I was talking with Terry when I was out here testing the race. I was talking to Mr. Terry Ballman, and he was telling me that you have to figure out, do you want to push in and get to the front real quick and use up all your tires so you're in good track position up front but with less wear, or do you want to play it safe and save that tire and be in the middle to the back where you might lose the pack, because this is one of those tracks that's draft reliant.
And you brought this up before we went live for the broadcast as well. A lot of Enter 2003 leagues out there have a constant temperature. They also have a constant as far as like knowing what the setup's going to do. These drivers here tonight, not only realistic damage, but realistic weather. So it's going to constantly change on just how abrasive this track's going to be, especially on that right front tire.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to see them slip, slide, back off for certain people. I don't know if two tires are even going to be an option, but we're going to figure this out because we're about to go green here. We're coming off of turn 4 right now, Seth, and get ready to start this little event here. And right now we're looking at segment 2. Ron Louisier is leading that over Bernie Mobbs by 13 points. 14 points back is Jim Gloud. So it's going to be kind of interesting here, Seth, as we get ready to go green.
Green flag is going to fly in the air. A lot of these drivers racing with Terry Fox, longtime RTG driver on their mind. Terry, this green flag's for you. Knopfsker's going to take the early advantage into turn 1. And you got to wonder, we mentioned the fact that the last time these drivers were here at Michigan, Robert Bauckham was able to go to victory lane. We'll see if that experience that he had from the first race, if that comes into play on how he approaches today's race.
Yeah, as we can see, they're getting kind of single file up there at the front, trying to get, like, I believe it's the top 6 now? I think it's top 5 that are single file. They're breaking away from the pack. The battle is on for 6 with Terry Bombard and Bob Dixon back here.
Yeah, you got Dante Ricky, who actually just moved up into the 5th position. Terry Bombard, you mentioned trying to get around the 143
The
for that
13
6th
going for
position.
3rd.
And we got to mention too, we talked about the segment 2 points. You mentioned them. Well, we've also got an overall championship on the line. We're actually getting close to the air quotes playoffs segment of the season. But as far as the battle for that overall championship, it's really still a 1v1 battle between Dante Ricky, who's leading the points, Terry Bombard second, 49 points separating those two. And they find themselves right up in the same zip code here in the beginning stages at Michigan.
Yeah, you see Dante's battling with 13 of Dave Melson for a fourth there. Looks like he's going to fall behind Dave Melson. Dave Melson's really trying to dive in there. He's going for third over Frank Brevard right now. But the segment two bracket's a little bit more tight right now with Ronald Louisier, like I was saying, 13 points over Bernie Mobbs, 14 back is Jim Cloud, and then 23 back is Dante, running right there in the fourth position in that
that
segment.
spinners! 2-3 cars up into the wall in turn 3.
Bernie Mobbs is involved in that, and that's going to hit him hard in this segment. This is realistic damage, too, so any little bit is going to really hinder someone.
That's Bob Dixon, the 143, Mark Paglia in the 28, and we had another driver,
Cy
riding the wall out of
Jones, I
turn
believe,
4.
got involved in that, too, because he's just not at the line, unless it was,
Dave Little. Dave Little was riding the wall out of turn 4. I don't know if he got involved or not, but he was up and into the fence.
Well, they were picking up the pace car. I'm sure they're probably going to come in and get some fresh tires already. That would be what I would do.
And I was going to mention, too, we saw the hard charge to the inside that Dave Melson and that 13 was making quite a bit going into the entry of the corner. Usually, I would assume at Michigan, that's the kind of aggressiveness that's going to wear that tire down the most on the long run.
Yeah, and it's just you want to push it to go up to the front right here, right now, and get that track position in case something like what just happened, so you're in good prime position, or do you want to go ahead and just relax in the back and you might lose the draft? Because remember, like I said, the draft is reliant big time here at this track because it's a big it's almost like a super speedway in a sense, I guess you could say, Seth. But looks like Tim Nosser's going to stay out. A lot of people are coming in. We got comers and goers here.
We're going to look at the replay here, and I want you to watch that red and white Circuit City Chevrolet back there. It's the 57 of Stefan Martel. I think he's actually the one that starts this wreck as he gets into the back of Dave Little, who then gets into the back of Bernie Mobbs, who then gets into the back of Bob Dixon. Seemed like kind of a stack up there going into turn 3. And Paglia spins it out by himself in front of Gloud, and if he hit the wall, it was just barely with the right rear. I think he may not have gotten any contact.
It looked like to me Bernie barely got in the back of the car in front of him, just barely a touch, and then it just sent him around, and then everything else was a checkup, especially. So, I mean, it's really bad luck that the 90 Sitco of Bernie Mobbs got involved. It looks like the person who got the worst damage, though, might have been the 143 of Bob Dixon off of that.
I agree with you. I think that he took the hardest shot with the rear end. We're going to go on board with Dave Little because I think there might have been the slightest bit of contact between himself and Bernie Mobbs to set this wreck off. But if that's not the case, this onboard should give us an idea.
Looked like there was a little checkup in front of Bernie, and Bernie it was just too soon. He had no reaction time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It almost looked like the 90 got into the back of the 143 at the exact same time that the 83 got back into the 90. And to your point, it may have been the 90 of Bernie Mobbs checking up, which had Dave Little into the back of him when they headed into turn 3. So an early caution here, and as you mentioned, some comers and some stayers.
Yeah, only a few other people just came down to on this second round here, and Tim Knopsker staying out. Robert Balcom, Ron Louisier, Andre Rayum, Stefan Martel, and Terry Bombard. They're all staying out.
A number of drivers that have decided to stay out, they ended up running about, I think it was 3 or 4 green flag laps on this set of tires. And you and I both know that, even though these drivers are going to be running maybe 3 pace laps out there, that's not really going to be enough time for them to cool those tires down to as if they had just come down pit road and taken on 4 tires. But let's remember, too, with this early caution, these drivers only allowed 4 sets of tires for the entirety of this race.
That is another fact that we didn't mention right away, that they're only allowed 4 sets. So And we mentioned 88 laps. It may not seem like it, but that's a pretty lengthy race, in my opinion, especially when you got tire wear. And like I said, I went out and did a few practice laps. I think I ran a total of Actually, let me check real quick. I ran a total of 11 laps at this track, and my tire wear was falling off big time by lap 9. By lap 8 going into 9, especially my fastest lap was on lap 5, Seth, and that was in draft. So, with that being said, I mean, you got 88 laps. You got to figure out when you want to come into pit and take those tires.
And of course, too, as you mentioned, getting the word from the league owner there of this series, Dante Ricky, as far as what the fuel mileage is as well. Drivers maybe feeling if they stretch it as far as the fuel window is, they should be okay as far as taking on those 4 sets of tires. But be interesting to see if we end up getting a late race caution if some of these drivers do have a set available, whether they take tires over track position.
Yeah, I mean, Dante explained to me that it was supposed to be a little bit shy of the maximum 24, 25 laps that they give you when you get on pit road and look at your estimated fuel. So with it just being shy of 25, 25 3 times 75, you can't make it to 100 because it's 88 laps. So I mean, they should be okay, but that tire wear is going to creep on them. They're going to want to hit badly if we go into a long run.
Want to make an apology here. I said the name wrong of longtime RGG driver. His name is actually Tony Fox. I believe I said Terry Fox when we went green, so my apologies there. And hopefully Tony's watching here tonight, and hopefully these guys put on a good show for him. I mean, usually Michigan, we end up seeing a track that goes into long green flag runs. And you mentioned before that the last time these drivers were here, Dante Ricky said it was a fuel strategy race, so we may see something
Yeah,
like that again.
he screwed up his fuel mileage and lost the race. We're going back to green.
Nofsker the leader, Terry Bombard second, then Stefan Martel, Robert Baucom, and Dave Melson your top 5 as we head back to the green flag. We've now got a total of 81 laps to go.
And remember now, we got people back here like Ron Louisier, who's been pretty good trying to hold on to that segment 2 top spot in the standing. He's back here in 17th position. Or, 17th, 18th position. Bernie Mob's back here, not too much damage. These guys back here, they pit. Those guys stay out. They're only a few lap older tires, but I'm curious to see how much of a impact early on that those tires are going to be compared to the leader Oscars.
Boy, we're only on lap 9, and we've already got blocking up here inside of the top 5 as Stefan Martel trying to keep Dave Melson in his rearview mirror. Melson took a look to the inside of turn
out.
4.
There's a wreck back here. Looks like Cy Jones is involved.
63 of Andre Rayum. That car is toast.
No, I'm sorry. Cy Jones was not involved. I apologize. I just came across Cy Jones at the last second in the back. I do apologize for that.
Bob Dixon's on pit road, so it might have been the second caution he's been involved in the early stages of this race.
Now it makes you wonder what they're going to do for the people who stayed out. If they're going to come in or not now.
Hard to tell if there's more damage on the 28 of Mark Paglia or not. He was involved in the first caution, but looks like that 63 may be done for the evening, and Bob Dixon's out as well.
I'm looking at the back of Ronald Luzier. I'm not sure if one of his sides look a little bit damaged or not on my end. We'd have to look at the replay and check that out, as pit road is open and not seeing the leader. Oh, we got a biter up here. Robert Balcom's going to come into pit from third position. There's a lot more coming into pit. I'm not sure they're going to take tires out, but you might want to go ahead and let's see what happened to cause this one, Seth.
Watch the 143 of Bob Dixon, who had that rear end damage, and wow, that car just almost seemed to stop in turn 4, and Andre Rayum had absolutely nowhere to go. I'm not sure what happened with that 143, but his speed just deaccelerated really, really fast. See if we get another camera angle there, but Dixon has already taken his car back behind the wall. Rayum is out of the race as well, and we're just going to watch this again because the 143 looked fine. Yes, he was a little bit slower with his rear end damage, but he at least was maintaining somewhat speed with the rest of the field, but then that car just almost seemed to start to come to a stop, and I'm not really sure what happened with him. Look at it again. Looks fine at this point, and then just watch right here as the car decreases speed. It looked like it was starting to spin out, and I would almost wonder, we talked about the rear end damage he sustained, that hard hit into the outside wall. We know at these type of racetracks that when that spoiler is messed up, it makes you really loose going into the corner, and I wonder if he felt like that car was going to step out on him. Usually the instinct is to hit the brakes.
Yeah, to try to correct it so it doesn't overcorrect, and then basically the back end kicks out. And with it being the way where it was, in my opinion, either he was going to go straight down into the grass and hit that inside wall, or he was going to go right up into that outside wall. There was nothing he could do when that back end kicks out, especially when you get realistic damage, because the realistic damage, it will bite you so quick. I mean, Seth, you and I run moderate damage in other leagues, and we know how much it steps out a little bit. But you've raced a couple of realistic damage races as well with me as well, and it's even worse with that damage.
Another thing we know too, that when leagues run at tracks like this, usually the general consensus is to have a somewhat loose setup at the start. So that way, if you get into a long green flag run, as the car gradually begins to tighten up, you're still able to turn off the corner.
Yeah, and we also got to remember there was a little bit of tire wear too. So, and we didn't get a full couple laps in, and tires were going to be really cold, especially playing with the throttle. Tires being cold, a little bit of damage. It's a recipe for disaster right away if you are caught in that situation with that damage.
Absolutely right. One thing that I was kind of interested to watch, and we haven't had quite a long enough green flag run to see it just yet. Michigan Auto Club, they're speedways, but a lot of their fundamentals are like a super speedway based off the length, based on how aerodynamic it is. I've been kind of wondering the mod they're running here this evening with the Winston Cup 98 machines. I was kind of interested to watch and see if the draft at any point was going to come into play with drivers being able to get big runs on others for position.
Well, from what I could gather early on in practice, uh, Robert Balcom and I, we were going side by side. He'd get in front of me for a while, and then I would get a run around him, and he was playing back and forth, going to the bottom, going to the high side, trying to see what the car would do in practice while I was behind him. And it it felt fine. It felt really tight on my end, but you know me, Seth. Every time I talk about my car feeling tight, everyone else is loose.
Right.
I have no idea if it was really a handful for Robert or not, but Robert's more talented than I am, so I'm not going to doubt anything he does.
So right there, Dave Little, Manny D, Cy Jones, Terry Bauman, Mark Paglia, a number of them on pit road taking fuel only, not taking on another set of tires.
And you do realize that Terry and Tim, they both have stayed out every single time so far, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm hearing a little bit of clutching from a few certain specific drivers too.
Yeah, we're even seeing the fourth place car there. Bernie Mobbs is clutching. You can always tell if they're clutching how that front end bogs down towards the racetrack. That's them shutting the engine off. As soon as the engine refires, then the front end pops back up. I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think the top four have not been to pit road since we've gone green to start this race.
I know Bernie Pitt the first time when he got involved in that incident as well.
Oh, you're right. So top three maybe then.
Yeah, I would bank top three if any at that. Cause I don't think Bernie Pitt this time though. But yeah, I think the top three have not pit yet. So.
We're getting ready to go back green yet again. We've already worked two cautions, and we've already got two drivers out of the race. The 143 of Bob Dixon, the 63 of Andre Rieume. As Tim Knopfsker, who started on the pole, has led every lap so far, leads us back to the green. But boy, the 10 of Terry Bombard timed it pretty well, but Bernie Mobb's not there to give him a push.
And if you notice this, you got two good friends there in the 57 and 62. And Ron Luzier and Bernie Mobb side by side, 1 and 2 in points right now for segment 2. And remember, Ronald was laying at the back early on. And look where he is now. He's battling for fourth over Bernie, trying to get a run. It looks like Bernie's going to get the run with Robert Balcom behind him. And looks like Tim's got the lead pretty well in hand as he goes to the bottom to block the 57's advance, and Terry's going to slide up. Looks like Tim's going to lead another lap here.
Stefan Martel looks like, well, I thought he was going to try and tuck up in front of the 10. He was clearing off the
Oh, a
4.
bump by Robert. That got Ron Luzier really loose there and coming to the tri-oval.
And Lucier, I believe, came to pit road under the first caution.
Yes,
and stayed out
did.
into the second caution. That's how he's gained all this track position.
Yes, that is correct. So he got involved in that first incident, came down, I think, on the second time by, and topped off and got some tires, I would believe.
Pretty impressive how that car is still up to speed as well, because, if we were kind of rating who got the most damage from that first wreck, obviously Bob Dixon would be the first, but Bernie Mobbs took a pretty good shot with the rear end of his car into the outside wall as well.
Top 2, Tim Nofsker and Terry have pretty much gotten single file and checked out from the side-by-side pack here. They haven't really got really far away because of draft, we're wheeling back in. But I'm just looking at the 13 here. Looks like the 57 has to check up right there, and that's going to hold a lot of people up. And now they're getting single file.
Yeah,
57's out to dry.
They were looking 3 wide, almost 4 wide. They're going into turn 1. With Bernie Mobbs, Lucier, as well as Baucom and Martel. Fortunately,
and if you see that 62 off of 4, it started to push up a little bit in front of Bernie Mobbs, and that's what I was saying. It's that tire where some of the turns you push up really bad. You have to check up so you don't push way up in front of everyone else. And if you check up at the last second, if you're not paying attention, you can run right in the back of them and wreck them by accident.
And as we mentioned earlier, when we saw Dave Melson, the 13, who's still down there trying to make the inside line work, when we saw him way down there, you brought up the point that that's really going to wear those tires down more. That's why you see most of these guys up here in the top 5 running about that second to third groove through the corners, trying to save the tires as best they can.
Yes, and Dante is back here trying to figure out which line to take. He went from the bottom to the high, so now he's back to the bottom behind the 72 with Jim. But it looks like we're going to have a battle up here for, looks like third position going into second. Looks like Robert Baucom's making a move on Ron Luzier up here.
Baucom, who we mentioned, won here at Michigan the last time that the Winston Cup Series was here, and he's now up to P3. I was kind of wondering where that 84 of Dante Ricky was, and you see he's back in the 11th position, and why that's important is because Terry Bombard, the guy he's trying to battle for the overall championship, is right now in that second position, and again, he hasn't been to pit road. Right now, he, Tim Nofsker, and Stefan Martel still have all their sets of tires waiting for them in pit road.
Yeah, and Dante pit, but I don't know if he actually took tires or not. I didn't pay attention to that, and I do apologize for that. But now we see Terry going for the lead, Tim falling back here, and it's just you look at this race, and they're all working on that high side. And that's where you want to be as the high side, especially with tire wear. We both know this, but it's so tempting to go on that bottom when you get that run coming up, when you get that draft stuff. It's just so tempting. You feel like you have to take it. And we see Nelson's trying to take it now with the 35 of Frank Rivard on his high side, and it didn't pay off for him. But you get in that sense of a pattern. It's like, I got to run. I have to take it. And whoa, Rivard almost ran in the back of the 57 right there.
We almost had a couple of drivers banging doors. Lucier and the 62. Wow, he got tight and he had to lift and almost had, who was that? Was that Nofsker?
Caution is out. Oh, Richard Martin is damaged beyond control back here.
And we got more cars. That's Jim Glout. No, I'm sorry, that's not. That's Benoit Plord actually in the 87. Down to the inside wall, and there were a couple of other drivers involved that I think have already teleported to pit road.
Richard Martin, look at the back end of that car. Wow, just completely destroyed in the back end. And Robert Baucom led back to the line. It will be Robert Baucom, Terry Bombard, Bernie Mobbs, Ron Luzier, and Tim Nofsker, the top 5 back at the line.
There were at least 3, maybe 4 cars that I saw scattered on the back straightaway, but you can see the 2 that at least have left the scene of the accident, Richard Martin in the 43 and Benoit Plord in the 87, went all the way down.
I do want to point this out before we look up the replay here. Lap 20 coming to 21. I have a good feeling that Tim Nofsker and the other guys are going to pit this time.
Nofsker, Bombard, and Martel. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. They're going to have to pit at this point.
for
Question
fuel
is,
and tires.
Question is, does anybody else come down with him, or are they going to be the only 3?
Looking to see what they're gonna do here.
Bombard's up there on that outside line like he's not going to come to pit road, and he's not.
Novsker's coming.
Balcom's going to pit from the lead. Mobs is in as well. Lucet. You mentioned Nofsker.
Yeah, Novsker was the one who didn't take it along with. Oh! There's a wreck right there with Rivard and Tim Novsker.
Oh, and they're going to continue to hit that wall there. And we mentioned realistic damage. I mean, that front end damage at a track that's as aerodynamically dependent as Michigan, you got to wonder how that's going to affect the 088 for the rest of
not only the damage, it's going to cost him time no matter what now, and he's going to be in the further back. And like we said, Bombard stayed out, and Bombard don't have to deal with that. He can come in and get tires, and he may not get any damage, and he might be a little bit better off now.
Yeah, this is an interesting strategy on the 10. We'll go back and look at replay in a moment, but I mean, you mentioned the fact that he's getting close to where his fuel window would be. Obviously, he's done a lot of clutching under these pacing laps, but right now it would almost seem like he would have to come to pit road under green flag conditions if we don't have another quick caution once we go back green.
Oh, I have a feeling he'll pit. I just, you know me, how I really worry about fuel, even on plate track stuff, no matter what type of where we got. So I have a good feeling Terry's looking at his fuel thinking, okay, do I come this time or do I stay at one left and come in?
That's possible. The question I would have is why would you give up all that track position when you could have pit with all the rest of the leaders?
Because he's probably betting that there's going to be another caution where, you know, they might get a little bit too antsy for their pants, and he might be out leading another lap to prevent the other driver from taking that lap from him.
I think you've been running with these guys too long. You know their strategies, because here comes Terry Bombard to pit road, along with a couple of others.
Well, we're under our, what is it, our 4th caution now?
I believe this is our 3rd caution of the evening here.
We should really see what happened with that 43 of Richard Martin, because it seemed like everything was fine. All of a sudden, I just saw the lights going on, and it's like, wow. And I get back around, that 43 has a lot of back-end damage, and it shocked me.
He's got a lot of damage, and it almost, we'll have to look, but I can't tell if maybe he got a little help, or if that car just started coming around on him, and then Benoit Plord finishes him off, and yep, looks like the 87 got into the back of him. And the 69 of Terry Bauman was the other car I saw. Oh, Dave Little nowhere to go as he clobbered the 87 who was drifting back down the track.
Dave Little has since retired, but the 69 of Terry Bauman and Richard Martin, they're still on track trying to make some laps here.
I don't think Bauman really hit much of anything. That car started spinning around, and he might have made a little contact with the rear end of his car to the outside wall, but if anything, the wall kind of saved his race car and allowed him to straighten it back out.
Did you say that Benoit was involved in that too?
Yeah, he was actually the one that I think made the initial contact to the 43 of Richard Martin. We're going to take another look here and see.
Because he was right on the inside wall, way down there.
And that was after contact from Terry Bombard, and then the shot from Dave Little. Looked like the 87 just kind of ran over the 43, but you know this as well as I do. When you're pack racing like that and everybody's in the same vicinity, sometimes it's really difficult to be able to tell, when the checkup's going to happen and to be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, I raced California last night with these guys in the Barebone series for the season finale, and I mean, there was a wreck that happened off of 4. They were running close and similar to what they're running here tonight, and there was a point where there was a little bit of a checkup in front of me, and I had to check up again, and then there was another checkup, and I had to check up again, and there was a quick checkup a 3rd time in front of me, and I just ran right in the back of someone because I was so close to them and I had no reaction time. So I mean, that it can automatically seem like you're having fun, enjoying yourself, and then with these tire wears, the draft pushing up, and people who already have a little bit of damage trying to maintain themselves, backing off just a little bit, and then you check up and bam, next thing you know, you're around because last second, no warning.
Well, we had our first caution and drivers that were involved in that. Two of them are up inside the top 5 for this restart. Bernie Mobbs is your leader. Mark Paglia will be in 5th, and they'll be booking Dante Ricky, who's going to be 2nd. Third place will be John Godfrey, and Robert Balcom's going to be up in the 4th position. You've also got Ronald Lucet, Jim Gloud up here, Frank Rivard, Dave Melson. So a lot of contenders still up here in the running for this victory, but 3 drivers will not be making it to the end. As you mentioned, Dave Little is now out of the race. Also, Bob Dixon and Andre Room retired early. Green flag back in the air. We are past the quarter mark of this race. And right now, just based on the fuel numbers we were given, these drivers would have to be on pit road at least 2 more times to make it to the conclusion of this one.
Yep. And from what I'm looking at here, I'm watching the 43 of Richard Martin because we saw how his good friend Bob Dixon earlier stepped out with that back end. I'm just trying to make sure that it doesn't happen to him too with all that back end damage on that spoiler.
84 of Dante Ricky. Oh, got a spinner. Dave Melson. Might have been a little neck code there between himself and another car, but that's going to bring out another caution as he's the only one involved, spinning up to the wall in the middle of 3 and 4.
And in all honesty, this is what Robert Balcom wanted to see. And look at who the leader is, Dante. Dante is going to give himself a point here.
I was just going to bring that up, too, because we saw Robert Balcom pushing the 84 of Dante Ricky to the race lead, and I was going to mention that Terry Bombard had led a lap earlier, so he had that bonus point here tonight over the 84, but now with Dante leading, that bonus point is null and void. Exactly.
And now we're back to even ground. Now it matters who's going to lead the most laps, if they do, or who's going to finish higher.
Yes, indeed, as the gap is 49 points, which, when you consider the fact that we're only in the 23rd race of a 36-race season, still plenty of time for Terry Bombard to be able to close that up. As a matter of fact, I believe Terry Bombard has won 2 out of the last 4 races so far, so he's definitely on a bit of a momentum streak right now, trying to continue to close that overall point standings gap up even more. And Dante looks like he is going to fake me out. He's going to stay out. I thought he was pitting. He had me. But he's going to stay out with the race lead. We'll go back and look at the replay here. And just looking at it live, looked like maybe a little bit of neck code, a couple of drivers trying to pinch each other down. And obviously Dave Melson, who was on the outside of that 3-wide situation, it just didn't work out for him.
Looking at Dave Melson, though, I mean, he was running up front for a while, and he was in the mid-pack trying to work his way back up, and he was really aggressive early on, and unfortunately, things like this just randomly happen to him.
Here it is, as he's on the outside of a 3-wide situation. That's Paglia in the middle. Jim Gloud's going to take a look to the inside 3-wide. I think actually this was in 1 and 2. It actually, the wreck culminates over in 3 and 4. And we'll see where the 3-wide situation was here, as Melson's going to right there. Oh, it was Bernie Mobbs pushing up the track just the least little bit. And unfortunately, since the 13 was on the outside, the contact is what sends him around into that outside wall. A lot of left side damage to that 13. We'll see if that's going to be affecting him for the remainder of this race. Didn't look like that hard of a hit, but sometimes those ones that look like just a kiss to the wall actually end up being more detrimental than we would originally think with the realistic damage.
Yeah, and speaking of realistic damage, I mean, you barely have a little bit of contact, and you look at your F9 that comes up and lets you know if you have damage or not that needs to be repaired, and you're like, wow, that was the small little touch, or you could hit the wall pretty significant, pretty hard, and you'll be like, wow, I don't have to repair any damage. And then a moment later, you barely get a small bump that's even lighter, and then all of a sudden you have to repair damage, and it's nowhere near what your other damage is. It's like, really? So it does get a bit annoying from time to time with realistic damage. But they're trying to get as realistic as they can, and so far, I mean, even though we've had a few wrecks here, South, I think they're doing pretty good for themselves, especially with their tire conservation as well. Not being too aggressive now that they've kind of gotten to a pattern, no offense to them.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it too, a lot of the cautions that we've had, it's not like these guys have been running each other over, making really aggressive moves. It's been just your typical Michigan type race, and the mistakes that happen when you're at a track like this. Cars pushing up in the corner, drivers that have to check up in the center of the corner, and the driver behind them doesn't have enough reaction time. That's really been the majority of what's brought out these cautions in the early stages of this race. And if for drivers that want to, or people that are watching that want to be able to see some more RTG racing, tune in this Thursday night because it's going to be a crazy one at Talladega. The season is coming to an end. The final four have been chosen, and a champion is going to be crowned in the Talladega Challenge this Thursday night, and FRN is going to have the call.
Yep, and you'll see yours truly, especially racing in the 94. But this time I will not be an FRN car, as I have been able to break the curse over in the Data Challenge series of not flipping. So I'm not sure what's going to happen, especially if Seth Cole here decides he actually can race.
I'm going to try to, and I'll run the FRN car. I'll get the TV time as the airborne machine because I don't think I've broken the curse.
Bernie Mop's coming back down pit road.
A couple of other drivers back there that we really haven't seen him at the front that I kind of expected. One of them is the 712 of Bob Seminara. I don't know if he's...
Bob's been at the back most of this race.
Yeah, is he playing like the long game right now, just kind of keeping himself out of trouble, and we'll see him up here in the closing stages?
I was scrolling and I saw him a couple of times. I'm sitting there thinking, why is he back here? I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm thinking that it's probably just him being careful and not trying to push too hard for his tires. That also might be what he's doing.
Well, I'm not sure what it is that Michigan has for the Richard Petty-themed cars this evening. We saw Bob Dixon have trouble earlier, and then his car got out of shape with the rear end damage. You can see there on the inside line fourth, the STP Pontiac Grand Prix of Richard Martin. He's got a lot of rear end damage, so we'll see if he's going to have to fight a loose race car.
You know what it is? You know what it is? It's the curse of Grant Wesley. He's not here.
It all makes sense now. Actually, it doesn't. I'm not sure what that reference incurs, but we'll see if Richard Martin's going to have to deal with maybe a looser car than some of these other drivers due to that rear end damage, as it's going to be Ronald Lucet. That's going to be actually, I think, race leaders Robert Balcom, who chooses the outside line. Lucet is going to be second on the inside line.
Yeah, and Tim Oscar's right there in fifth. It's going to be interesting to see what he does on this restart. Ronald Lucet is battling up for the segment 2 title with Bernie. Bernie's way at the back here after pitting, so see what ground they can make up.
Yeah, both the 088 of Novsker and the 35 of Frank Rivard there, second on the outside line, were the two that made the contact on pit road, and they're up here in the top 5, so they must be up to speed as the green flag is back in the air. And Balcom may not have gotten the jump he wanted to because Lucet is going to have the advantage going into turn 1.
They were ready for that one.
They were, and now the question is, can the 62 clear the 18? He's got him clear through the center of the corner. And
side by side, 2 rows deep back here behind the leader.
Stefan Martel in that 57's been up in the top 5 all night long, trying to get alongside Robert Balcom, but now you're seeing that outside line kick in as Balcom's going to swing around for the second spot, sets his sights back on the lead.
There's a little gap forming up here, back here where Dante is running at, and looks like he's trying to get around, and it looks like Richard Martin's off the pace as well. Looks like Mark Paglia is leading the second little group here behind Jim Gloud, who's passing the 7-11 of John Godfrey right now. And look at the 57 back off. Tim Novsker almost ran right in the back of him. Benoit saved the 57 with a little bump there and gave him a little bit of slack as they go into turn 3. And the 69's back here on the apron, no caution.
And going back to that whole thing with Martel, you brought up the point earlier about the fact of these drivers, you get that run and you want to take it somewhere. A lot of our broadcasts on the iRacing side have been in Michigan the past couple of weeks, and what Sam and I have talked about, Michigan is a momentum track. You lift, you give person a break, next thing you know, you've got drivers that didn't lift that are bypassing you for position.
Yeah, I'm looking at the second pack a moment ago on lap 30 going into 1 off of 2 to see what happened to the 69 of Terry Ballman here. Looked like he backed off of the car of Manny Dean, the 710, and when he backed off, like we talked about earlier, that was spoiler, it just kicked him, and he just lost it, spun to the inside, didn't hit anything, just spun around on the apron and kept going. Manny D pushing up as well after that incident as well, and it's It's really hard to drive this track when your tires are starting to wear and you're trying to gain every little aspect of position, knowing that, okay, you can gain it, but at what cost? Your tires, and that's going to come back to bite you as the run goes on.
Kind of have to give up something to gain something. If you want to have a good entry, you're probably going to have a slow exit, and vice versa. How you set up the corner is going to affect how you leave the corner, whether it be in 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. Is I thought we might have a battle for the lead there between Lucet and Balcom. Balcom got a great run off of 2, but he thought better of it and puts a little gap between himself and the 62. Now it's going to be Terry Bombard there with him, and they're going to have a huge draft on Lucet here through 1 and 2.
And I do want to point out that Dante has just passed the 088 of Tim Knopfsker, and now Dante's up here in the top 10, and he's looking for more. He's got the draft from Benoit in front of him, and he's reeling him in slowly.
Saw him fly by John Godfrey earlier as well, making his way into the top 10 at the time.
Balcom for the lead.
And he will clear, it looks like, off the corner. Now we'll slide up in front as Frank Rivard and Stefan Martel, the two of them, been close to making some contact. How about that mellow yellow machine? The 72 of Jim Gloud is up here now trying to get top 5.
We've seen Jim Gloud show that he's not, just a back marker thing. We've seen him get up near the front a couple of weeks ago when we were doing the live broadcast, two races in a row. I believe it was at Indianapolis, if I'm not mistaken. You were co-commentating with me on that one, and one with Carlos at North Wilkesboro. I think it was when Jim Gloud was up near the front battling as well. So Jim's recently shown that hey, he's the force to be reckoned with on these tracks that are unique with tire wear, fuel conservation, realistic damage. So don't count him out.
Dante Ricky has now moved up to the 7th position. And just to tell how fast he has been going here, working his way to the front. That last time by, he was only 7/1000ths of a second off his fastest lap of the race. So that 84 is flying to the front.
Just to mention, 710 and Manny D did come down to pit a little earlier. Looking at the 20 of Mark Paglia, it seems like he's still doing pretty well after being involved in that incident earlier on. Bernie Mobb's still doing pretty well, but he's back in, looks like 12th at this moment. No, he's back in 11th behind Bob Seminara, who's running by himself, and in front of him is Tim Knopfsker running by himself in 9th. So either these guys have used up their tires or they're trying to play conservative here.
Well, the 28 of Mark Paglia, as well as the 088 of Tim Knopfsker, we know that the damage they sustained early on in this race was to the front end of the car. So that's going to certainly affect them aerodynamically, and they may lose out on 2, 3, maybe 4 miles per hour down the straightaway.
That, Seth. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, you can see the damage there on the left front of the nationwide machine of Tim Knopfsker. And I'm pretty sure Paglia's got a buckle on his hood as well. So I think that might be affecting the both of them here, especially on the straightaways, and also the fact that for Knopfsker, he's got nobody around him, nobody to be able to get some draft off of. Oh my goodness, Dante Ricky. Boy, he drove it deep into that corner and wasn't going to give Stefan Martel any room. We saw what happened to Dave Melson earlier when he didn't give a lot of room to Bernie Mobbs.
And Jim Gloud right here just enjoying the show, saying, boys, slip up, let me gain a position. Let me do it the easy way and not have to use my tires, right, Seth?
Absolutely. And you got to wonder here, too. I mean, we've seen how Dante Ricky has been flying up through the field, but at what cost? How much tire is he going to have left when he gets up here maybe to the top 3? Is he's still got to get around Frank Rivard for that 4th position. Here comes Terry Bombard. He's feeling the pressure of that 84. He wants to put his number 10 out in front.
And as he does so, remember, that highest is getting that runoff, but what length of tire, how much tire did he use up trying to stay with Robert and then dive to the inside like that, trying to make the pass and battling like that? Now it looks like Frank Rivard might go to the bottom. He's figuring out what he wants to do back here in 4th. Balcom has the 62 of Ron Luzier with him still, as they're going to be side by side coming to the line. I wonder who's going to lead this. Looks like Balcom's going to lead this lap, and Terry's going to keep falling back now.
Terry had the run, but he had no drafting help as Ron Lucet decided to stay up there with Balcom. Here comes Frank Rivard being pushed by Dante Ricky, and Ricky getting a little close to the left rear quarter panel of the 35.
And Jim Gloud's coming too. He just passed Stefan Martel.
And Bombard's trying to find his way back up to that outside line, but Frank Rivard's not going to let him in.
And like we said earlier, it's going to not only kill your tires, it's going to cause you to keep pushing up even more as the tire wear goes on.
Look at the lack of daylight there through 3 and 4 between the 35 and the 10. Neither driver really giving each other much room. And really, that's more so a strategy on the part of Frank Rivard, pinching Bombard down there, not allowing him to get a run off of turn 4 or turn 2 to be able to swing around the outside.
And
But
look at
again,
that pinch right there by Dante and Frank on that inside line holding them down there.
man, that's so risky because, you and I know that sometimes if you're down there pinching a car, there can be net code. That car could warp. Next thing you know, you find yourself up and into the fence. And with realistic damage, especially if you're someone like Dante Ricky who's battling for a championship, you don't want to really put yourself in that situation. Not when you've got this fast a car and they're running up inside the top 5.
But also you have to realize if you go down too far and you get pinched down there, it's going to start pushing up. And even if you think you can hold it, you're automatically in the mindset you have to back off. And when you back off the throttle just a little bit, it's going to push right up.
Frank Rivard gives a little bit more room that time going to turn 1 to Bombard, but then right back down against his passenger side door coming off of turn 2. Bombard's doing a good job
There is
holding there on the
no
inside.
love. They're not showing any love to that 10 machine.
No, they are not. Terry's saying, guys, give me a slot. I'll tuck in line with you, but nobody wants to let him in. Want to remind everybody as well that Terry Bombard, as well as his brother Mitch, they're going to be holding some special events next week. Going to be running 4 races during the week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. FRN's going to have the call for 2 of them on Thursday, August 20th. It's going to be the trucks at RTG Motor Speedway, and then the following Friday, August 21st, we're going to be having the trucks as well at RTG Super Speedway. So should be some good ones there, hosted by the Bombard brothers.
Yep, prizes on the line and broadcasting, bragging rights. It's going to be a one good time. They're giving back to the community, and it's nice to see that there's still some goodwill in this community, especially over here with this league. And, ever since we've come over to RTG, Seth, we've been around these guys. They're so respectful. Their manners, their politeness, the way they hold themselves. It's a great experience for anyone, to come over here and race. It's just so enjoyable.
And their knowledge of the sim, too. I mean, you talk with them.
They've been here for 50 seasons.
They have.
So they've been here for, what, since 2005, I believe?
I think it's 2005. I mean, you get an education every time you come over here. There's a wealth of knowledge on this sim, things that, I think you and I, at least I've been on this thing for going on about maybe 6
Jim
years
Glad,
now.
I'm sorry, Jim Glad almost got into the side of Terry right there off of 4. I am so sorry to cut you off. And what were you saying, Seth? I apologize.
I was going to say, I've been on the sim now for about 5-6 years. And
Dante's looking for the lead.
And he's going to try and make it work here in 1 and 2. He had the momentum. He had to take it somewhere, as we've alluded to. It's a momentum track. And I don't think he's going to get any help. We've seen the 62 of Luce stay up at the top side. Oh, Bombard was in the wall.
Dante's going to lose the position. I'm hoping that he doesn't lose it as bad as Terry lost it.
We're going to have to see about that 35 and 10 here as this run goes on. They're making their way around the slower machine of Terry Ballman. But it was hard to tell who got into the wall first, if Rivard went up and then Bombard followed him in the outside wall off of turn 2. But those cars appear to still be somewhat up to speed, but
Tim
definitely some
Knopfler
contact.
coming off Terry right after making the pit stop. And they're side by side going into 1 again. Looks like Terry's going to be right behind the 35 this time.
That time by, I was focused on the 35. You could clearly see the right side damage on his machine. We'll see if we can get a right side shot of the 10 of Bombard and see if he got some damage. I think we've got some more drivers possibly pitting here.
Yeah, it looks like green flag stop's going to start soon. And we look at Ron Luzier. He got second away from Dante, and Dante's starting to fall back. Jim Gloud is now trying to attempt for 3rd place.
Jim Gloud up here.
But you were saying about sim racing before we had that little scare there, Seth. What were you saying about sim racing for a while?
I was going to mention the fact, racing on this sim for a number of years, you come in here, you talk to these guys, and it's just a wealth of knowledge of things you did not know about how this sim works and things that you're able to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, whoa, that was close to a 7-11 off of close to Paglia there in turn 1 and 2. But yeah, I mean, someone who is like me, I've done nothing but plate race most of my NR career, and like for the past 5 years, and I mean, think about that, Seth. I've learned something with every league I've gone to. I mean, you see me dominate and get really good in one league, and then all of a sudden I go to another league and I can't do diddly squat, and then all of a sudden, boom! It takes me about a couple months to maybe almost a year, and all of a sudden I'm doing well, and then I find out that there's other places that are more challenging, more pressure, more. You get what I mean? It just ramps up my ability to try to do better, and I've learned a lot. Especially, it took me what was it? So it took me like nearly 16 races, 16, 17 races to finally get in the top area near the pole position. I finally got one. So I
Yep.
mean, it took me forever, and you'll learn things over. And if you don't get it the first time, you'll eventually get it by listening and watching.
You also get it as far as like on the track itself in terms of racing. I mean, I mentioned this back when I think it was the week after I took part in my first Talladega Challenge race, and I think I was with Napa Fan at the time, and I honestly stated I was scared to death. I mean, they were three wide, several rows deep, and all keeping it together. So it's no doubt an experience, and here we
Leaders are
go.
coming in.
Leaders are all in here for green flag pit stops.
65 miles an hour, and wow.
Well, I mean, we saw Jim Glaude and Dante Ricky smoke those tires, but they're going to be having them removed. So I guess use your tires up while you can. Ronald Lucet, Stefan Martel, Jim Glaude is in.
Oh wow, Dave Melson really fast entering the pit road there. 13. Wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple black flags issued too, Seth, because you it's like when we talk about super speedway racing, we're coming off at 190 miles an hour, going close to 195 or 97, and we come into pit road, we gotta get all the way down to 55. This is not a plate track, but these guys are going about 182 on the backstretch, and the way this pit road is, it's a little bit closer, and you don't get like that far strip before you have to slow down. You have to slow down a little bit quicker and a little bit more sooner and get all the way down to 65.
Another reason why this track is basically in ways looked at so much like a super speedway. And a couple of drivers here on this green flag pit stop have some decisions to make. We saw Terry Bombard and Frank Rivard. They ended up getting the wall earlier. And I believe Ronald Lucet actually got the wall off of turn 2 on the back straightaway as well, a couple of laps before coming down and making these green flag pit stops. So do they spend the extra time on pit road repairing that damage or not? Looks like the answer for Terry Bombard was yes. He had some damage on the left side. We saw when he came to pit road. That damage is now gone. Well, nope, never mind. That right side damage is still there. So I guess he did not repair his damage.
He might have repaired it, but it's still visible with how much and how hard he hit. I'm watching Dante. He cycled around 5th that last lap, and he's going to pass Cy Jones here in number 7. See where the official
I think he's going to be the
overall point
leader. I'm pretty sure he's going to be the leader.
I was trying to figure out if it was going to be him or Robert.
When he crossed the line here, yeah, he's second, and that's because Bombard was the leader when he crossed the line that last time. So this time around, unless Bauckham can get around him here, it should be the 84 P1 to cycle out this, so far, only round of green flag pit stops. And it's interesting, too, because, mentioned earlier that Dante Ricky mentioned the last Michigan race was a fuel strategy race. All these drivers came to pit road somewhere between laps 45 to 48. So they're going to have to pit at least one more time. I don't see how anyone can possibly save enough fuel to make it the rest of the way.
Well, we've seen crazier things happen as the 7 of Cy Jones is coming into pit, and he took it really wide coming in, but he's going to make it in at the line, commit the line without a problem. And like we're saying, I mean, we've been surprised so many times before, Seth, about fuel. Like, we've come to the point of, well, it's telling us to splash, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, we can make it, don't worry, and then we have to pit. So we it's a throw up you throw it up in the air. We just don't know what's going to happen here. And Dante said he lost a race back in June, I believe, because of the fuel. So looks like he's trying to make sure he doesn't do that again.
Yeah, Dante, out of 23 drivers, finished 19th, last car on the lead lap in that last Michigan race. He has done one thing that's improved over that last Michigan race. Last Michigan race, he did not lead a lap. He has led several here this evening. in that 84 machine as he's trying to hold off Robert Balcom. Balcom there in that 18 machine, the former winner
And,
from Michigan. And how about the
and
guy that's in fourth, Ron
I,
Lucet,
I
as
was
he
going
finished
I
second
was
there.
going to mention that 72 still hovering right around there very quietly, but he's still right there with the leaders.
And Jim Glaude finished 11th last time at Michigan and doing a lot better here today in that machine as he has got the top two in his sights. And as far as, Dante Ricky is concerned, being out in front, cutting the draft for these drivers, that's using up a lot more fuel. So there's no way that he can be saving fuel right now.
Absolutely not, especially with it being CTS physics. That fuel is just dropping a little bit more than what they've got as well. But also, with him leading, he's able to dictate about how he's going to manage to lead, like the pace of this race of overall right now. So he might actually be able to save a little bit of tire if they are willing to ride behind him.
Interesting because the last Michigan race, both drivers that are battling for the championship struggled in that one. We already mentioned where Dante Ricky finished. Terry Bombard was the first car one lap down, finishing in 20th place. Both of them up inside the top five. But the problem for Terry Bombard in that 10 machine, there's nobody around him, so he is losing touch with those front four.
Yeah, he's in fifth place right now, going to the inside. I mean, on the bottom of that. I mean, what do you think he's doing? You think he's actually trying to use his tire to catch up, or do you think he's just saying, well, I mean, I'm way back here, might as well try to save a little bit? And we got a battle for the lead up here between Dante and Robert again.
Well, going back to your question there about Terry, I think right now what he's doing, he's just out there trying to, run the best line he can. I don't think he's necessarily saving fuel, but he knows at this point in time it's kind of a losing battle of trying to reel in these drivers because, much like a super speedway, 3, 4 cars lined up are going to produce a lot more speed than one car by itself, especially with the fact that you got to mention as well the fact that Terry Bombard still has that right side damage.
And Dante's putting a lap on Mark Paglia up here. Robert Balcom tried to challenge him before they got to the machine of the 28 of Paglia, but couldn't do anything. I'm waiting to see what Balcom. And here comes Balcom. Balcom's peeking. Looks like he's going to try to go for it again in turn one.
Yeah, Balcom only led 16 of the 88 laps run back in June here at Michigan, so he wasn't up at the front a whole lot in that race. It was actually a Grant Wesley that led the most laps in that one. So Balcom seems to be one of those drivers, at least here at this track, that he moves up to the front when it matters the most, and right now he is leading this race over Dante Ricky, Jim Glaude, and Ron Lucet in that 62 machine.
Well, right now we're closing in on 30 to go.
And we
And
know that these
remember,
drivers
we
are going
got
to make at least one
25.
more pit stop.
Yeah, that's what I was about to mention. Is that with it coming up with about 30 to go in a moment? I mean, they can only go 25 laps, and 24, 23 laps, according to what we heard from Dante, like a little bit less than the full fuel that we are given, which is 25. I mean, I don't know when they're going to come back on pit road, Seth, and I don't know if they're going to take tires or they're going to keep that one set saved in case a late caution comes out. I mean, what would you do in this case, Seth?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question with the fact of, there is the chance you could come to pit road as soon as the fuel window opens, take on that set of tires, get out there and maybe utilize those new tires as opposed to the old tires to make up some ground. You run two risks, though. Number one, you run the risk that if you come to pit road, nobody else is going to come with you on that lap. You're going to come out by yourself. And so, really, anytime you would gain on the fresh tires, you're going to lose with not being in the draft. The second is, too, the field is so spread out right now. And even though Michigan's 2 miles in length, you run the risk of being trapped a lap down if we get a late race caution.
Yeah, I'm looking at Manny D. It looks like he's in third gear. Now he's in fourth gear. He's just getting up to speed off of the corners here, so he's really slow. He's about to go another lap down. We're talking about being lapped and everything, Seth. I mean, if you look at Terry, for example, Terry unfortunately is currently running by himself. I mean, if this goes like we were saying about coming in by yourself, it's really going to hurt that 10's chance.
It really is. I mean, he's by himself already, and if he comes to pit road, well, actually, no, he's actually got a drafting partner now. He's got Terry Bauman, the 69, behind him, as well as Stefan Martel, who just got around him for 5th place. So now, at least his lap times are going to pick up. as opposed to what they were when he was running by himself. But I'm also
But how much
noticing
tire did he use trying to run down the leaders to see what he could do? That's what I'm wondering, because it looks like Stefan Martel has kind of pulled away a little bit after passing him.
a great point. I'm going to ask you this too because you may know. I don't know if it's an overall RTG rule. I know it happens in the Tally Challenge. Is it that in each league that the top two drivers that are a lap down get the free pass under cautions?
It's every single league based all the way across, from what I was told with NR at least, that if if there's two cars a lap down, they both will get the way around as long as they weren't involved in the incident. And if a car is a lap down and another car is two laps down, they're the first two in a row, then the car who's a lap down will get the lap back, and then the person who's two laps down will be able to get one of their laps back.
All right, so right
So
now the two drivers in those lucky dog spots, I believe, would be the 7-11 of John Godfrey as well as the 28 of Mark Paglia, who have latched on to the tail end of this league group.
I asked that same question. I believe it was last week, Seth, for purposes just to be sure. So yeah, I figured that one out too. So it's like it's all across. I don't know about the iRacing series that they run here for Friday night's dirt late models. I'm not sure about that one.
These drivers, if they want to short pit right when the fuel window opens, that's going to be somewhere in the next 4 to 6 laps where they should be able to make it the rest of the way on fuel. We'll see if there's going to be any takers, but something says to me that all these drivers, they're going to run it until that tank is nearly dry, trying to make sure that they get the fresh tires with the less amount of laps.
And we're looking at the 62. The 62 is about to pass Jim Blau, trying to make a move here in turn 3, and I mean, Robert currently is holding pace here, so I'm wondering when Robert pulls in, if that's when Dante's going to come in with them as well, because you know Robert's won here before. What do you do? Do you try something different to try to win, or do you want to stay with the person who's pretty much really good here at this track? Come in with someone who you know is going to be up near the front, who can run down these other drivers real quickly based on him winning before, and stay with him, so you'll be there at the end. And it looks like Jim Blau barely got the wall there as they make evasive maneuvers to go around on the inside.
Yeah, he may have brushed the wall there in the 72 as he's got Manny D, who's a lap machine, trying to pass him. Manny D, I believe, is 3 laps down in the 16th position. And now Luce, whoa, gracious.
That was close.
We know about bumper grabbing. We nearly just had some out of turn 4.
Yes, we did. Terry Bombard's going by the 57 of Stefan Martel for position now. Looks like Dante wants to try to get the lead from Robert Balcom as he peeks underneath and he's going to fall back in line. Manny's coming right up, but shouldn't worry about Manny too much since he's a lap down machine. I'm wondering how damaged if the 72 has any damage. It looks like there's a car up next to a wall up here that they're catching. Cy Jones in the 7.
Yep. Going back to your question about the 72, I didn't actually see him hit the wall, but if it was just a brush, the 62 of Ronald Luce, prior to that round of pit stops, brushed the wall as well, and apparently that has not affected him as far as speed. There are some times where you can actually brush the wall, not even really get any damage, so that might have been what was the case for the 72, as, boy, Manny D, I think he's got fresher tires or something, because he got a heck of a run there into turn 1 and nearly ran the 84 of Ricky over.
The 28 of Mark Paglia, who we've seen been off the pace a little bit, he's up with this pack here with John Godfrey. He's right behind Godfrey and passing to the high side of the 72. They're going 3 wide back here with the lap machine of Cy Jones at the very top.
Oh, gracious. That is Godfrey in the middle. Lead lap machine,
Paglia's going to go with Godfrey, and he's going to go 3 wide as he passes Jim Glad on the outside.
And I
think Cy Jones has got the wall off of that right before they got to turn 1.
I was going to say I thought that might be a position battle between the 28 and the 7, but it is not. Paglia is actually a lap ahead of Cy Jones, and they will all, at least in this lead pack, get away from the 7 machine, get around him safely.
The next drivers up in the sights of Robert Balcom and Dante are the 87 of Benoit and the 13 of Dave Nelson.
Both of who have been involved in cautions here today.
Bernie Mobbs is coming off pit road, so that might have been the strategy tip right there. 66 out of 88. We got less than 22 laps to go, I believe now.
We'll see what this is going to do for that Sitco Ford.
The 72, Jim Cloud just hit as well.
So these drivers, they're all pitting right when the fuel window is open to be able to make it the rest of the way. We'll see if it works out. Jim Cloud pitting from the 4th position.
I'm looking on the backstretch in turn 3. Nelson really got close to the 87 Benoit on the backstretch, trying to pinch him to get a good run into the turn 4, and he's going to clear the 87.
Both these drivers were 10th and 11th, I believe, prior to the 72 coming to pit road. Last cars on the lead lap, and as you can see, less than half a straightaway ahead of race leader Robert Balcom. And I got to say, I love where Dante Ricky is right now, being in that 2nd position, because if he chooses to duck to pit road, he can do it maybe at the last possible second when Balcom is going to be able to do nothing about it and have to stay out.
Yeah, and that's what I was suggesting earlier. Would you rather follow the leader who basically has been able to stay out and do all this and basically win races? And you know what I was saying earlier, like, I mean, Balcom, he won the race last time, right?
Absolutely.
If you know someone that really good at racing and everything, do you want to follow him or do you want to try something different? Looks like Dante is currently just playing the cat and mouse game to see what he's going to do before he actually shows his hand. Looks like he's trying to go for the lead here on Balcom too in turn 1.
I'm not sure.
Oh man, he got really tight.
And he's going to hold up Lucey. Oh, boy. Fortunately, the 62 hit the 87 square. They didn't spin, but there was definitely contact.
Oh,
gracious. Manny Dean
really getting racing back here, and they're not even on the lead lap.
Yikes. And a lot of these drivers, they're off different laps of each other as well. I think that the 28, 7, 11, 87, and 13, they're all battling for position, but Manny D's multiple laps down.
69 Terry Bauman's in pit road. The 35 of Frank Brevard pit in from 6th position.
There's Jake Loudon, 72, who I think is still on the tail end of the lead lap, just ahead of the race leaders.
And yeah, 72 hit, and he came out, and they were closing in up on him. And 72 with those fresh tires, able to keep position in front of Robert Balcom.
That's actually really good if you're Jim Gloud, and the fact that you were able to hold off the race leaders from putting you a lap down, especially with the fact that he was up in that lead pack. So that could be very important.
Terry Bombard's off pit road too. He's now merging on the backstretch.
We got others on pit lane. Paglia, Benoit Plord, Cy Jones, some lap machines hitting pit lane right now.
So, what are you thinking, Seth, if you're Dante and Robert? When are you going to come in and show your hand?
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I kind of think that you want to take advantage of those fresh tires with as less laps as possible.
From what I'm looking at in the log here, I'm seeing people saying pitting this lap, the 84 and the 018.
And Balcom is going to pit as well, so Dante Ricky played his hand there.
Really fast coming in from the 018.
John Godfrey and Ron Lucey back there as well, coming to pit road. So now, where is this going to cycle the 72 around is the question.
I'm looking at the 10 to see where the 10's going to cycle around at right now. Because right now, last time by, the 10 was in position number 10, Seth.
Let's see where he's going to be as he crosses this time. Is it going to be ahead of the 72?
8th.
He's in 8th, and Gloud is in 5th. So I think Bombard might actually be a lap down.
Well, he's coming up to pass Carl leaving pit road, which I think is the 57. I might be wrong. Nope, it is the 57. And he was battling 57 earlier, and look at the 712 above Seminara. Now Seminara's making the move, and now it's time for him to start pushing it.
It looks like it could be a 2-horse race here in the closing stages as Balcom and Ricky come off pit road together. Quite a bit of a gap back here to what's going to be an exchange for 3rd. The 72 of Jim Gloud trying to swing around the outside of the 62 of Ron Lucey, and now it's almost going to be like a super speedway race, 2-car tandems. Can this tandem of Gloud and Lucey reel in the tandem of Balcom and Ricky?
Well, it may not mean much, but I'm looking at the fastest lap counter here, Seth. Lap 74 out of 88. The 84 at the top of the board.
And
so we know Dante's car is really hooked up.
Question I have though is, a lot of times when we saw drivers make moves for position, they usually, when they went to the inside, had somebody behind them to help keep that momentum going. Being the only car here behind the 18, is Dante Ricci going to be able to find that momentum to even get to the inside, get that run off the corner on Robert?
I'm not sure, Seth. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it happen a few times already. That high side will get a little bit of a run, and you can't make that inside work. And the more you make that inside work, the more tires you use. So Dante's got to figure out when he needs to actually try to pass. I mean, the sooner the better, but then you risk the issue of, hey, we might get another caution, and what are you going to do then?
Absolutely. 3:13 to go at
laps
the
to go.
line. And there's still, you just said, plenty of time for a yellow flag to come out and shake this whole thing up. We're closing in here at the end of this race, and we just want to give a little bit of a shout out here to one of our broadcast colleagues, Tyler Riggs, who I believe is running a league race tonight with a bit of a heavy heart. Tyler Riggs works in a radio station in Woodward, Oklahoma, and the owner, the boss of his radio station, Doug Williams, passed away this past Friday at the age of 78. And so our thoughts are with Tyler here tonight, hopefully over in the series that he's running. I think he's running in 2 series, running a tribute scheme to his good friend Doug Williams. Hopefully he'll be doing well over there. But just want to let Tyler know that we're thinking of him. And this race here, I'll tell you what, this has been typical Michigan. We've had those early wrecks, but things settled into a long green flag run, and now we're going to see if it's going to be Bauckham being able to go 2 for 2, or if Dante Ricci can get his first win of this second segment of the Winston Cup Series.
Yep, you're right. And Dante's not letting Robert get too far ahead, but Dante is still. I mean, it looks like Robert gets a little bit of an edge off these corners, just a little bit, and all it takes is one little slip in there. Here goes Dante. Dante's closing back up on Robert, but it seems like Robert's so much better off the exit.
We were wondering about, this series runs the CTS physics. You mentioned it, which usually has tremendous suck up in the draft. And it looks like the 84 is kind of trying to give a little bit of space between himself and the 18 to then be able to get that draft and get a run. What he's trying to do, though, is he's trying to time it so he gets that run going into the inside of the corner.
Yeah, but we're running out of laps here. We're coming to 10 to go this time by. And if there is a caution, it is race back. So, I mean, what is it, Seth? Is it like for a track like this, it's 5 to go, and then at the 5 to go, the race is going to be over no matter what because of lap traffic? I mean, coming in, you got to realize how much time you got left, and you got to make the move because all it takes is one wreck that'll happen, and you got no more chances.
That's a great point there because, yeah, I think that it's 3 laps if all cars are on the lead lap. We've got multiple cars a lap down, and our adds on an extra lap for that. So, yeah, about 4 laps of pacing these drivers would have to go through. So if we got to about 4 to go and a caution were to come out at that point or afterwards, then it would be race back to the line. Whoever wins under the yellow flag. So that kind of puts a sense of urgency on Dante Ricci for 2 reasons. Number 1, he obviously wants to be the one out in front if that caution were to come out in the closing stage, but also the fact that, let's say we get a caution that comes out now, we get a restart. I would probably want to be the control car more than I would want to be the car that's having to figure out when that 18 is going to go on a restart.
Well, I would rather be in Robert's position because it seems like the 018 can actually get a good fight off the corners, and Robert knows how to use that to his advantage, but I don't know. Dante's pretty doggone hungry. He's got that point lead, and he wants to extend it even more. And I'm just sitting here looking at the 35. The 35 has retired, Seth, of Frank Brevard. I don't know what happened. There's no caution on the track.
No, I saw him on the apron through 3 and 4. Looked like he brought his wounded number 35 to pit lane. So he has called it an evening as right now the battle for third between Ryan Lucet and Jim Glau, that's kind of settled out. And
remember, we saw Jim Glau. He was at the end of the lead lap not too long ago before Bauckham pit, and look at him. He's in the top 5, having a really great run.
Terry Bombard, I think, was 5th when the pit road cycle in that second round happened. Bob Seminara is now up to 5th.
Yeah, I mean, now it looks like only 8 cars are on the lead lap. Bernie Mozing, the last one at this moment. Almost 4.5 seconds from first back to 4th, and then they trail off. There's a big gap where Bob Seminara is in the 7-12 in the 5th place, 30 seconds back. So
Yeah.
they got themselves spread out. There's 2 cars, and there's 2 cars, and there's like 3 or 4 cars. So they're all over the place.
And if you look as well as far as, the overall points battle for the championship, you got Dante Ricky up here in second. Terry Bombard's back now in the 7th position, and Bernie Mob's last car in the lead lap back in 8th. I mean, he's 107 points. He's the long shot, if you will, to try and make it a 3-man fight for this championship. Even if Dante Ricky doesn't win this race, I know he wants to, but even if he doesn't, he's still going to gain a lot of points based off his finishing position and the other drivers that are trying to run him down for the overall championship.
If you're looking at that one, look at segment 2. The standings there being tight. 13 points back is Bernie Mobs, 14 back is Jim Glad, and 23 back is Dante. But Bernie running currently in the 8th position, about to be a lap down, not in the next few laps possibly. You're looking at the biggest gainer out of this whole issue would be that 72 of Jim Glad, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Could find himself up as high as second in the segment 2 points behind Ronald Lucey. I think possibly Dante Ricky could move up to third, dropping Bernie Mobs down to fourth, but it'd be close between these two, depending on if Dante Ricky has led the most laps
and
here.
We're coming to 5. What is it now? We got 6 to go, I believe?
Yeah, it's going to be 6 to go, and then 5. Well, yeah, 5 to go at the line, I believe. No, we're at 5 to go. Sorry. And then 4 to go at the line, and we're in that range now. A caution would end this race.
Yep, and Dante better be ready to make that move very soon if he wants to get this win.
Here's the problem, though. I mean, these guys have been out there now for about 10 laps since they all came to pit road. I mean, how much tire rubber does Dante Ricky have now to be able to try and make a move? He's taking a look, though, through 1 and 2.
And Balcom just shuts the door on him. Balcom is not going to give up this win easily. He's not going to give it to him. And Dante really has nothing to pretty much gain except for more points. I mean, he's just going to add insult to injury if he comes away with this win.
This league for the segment 2, this is the 9th race of segment 2 they've run. I'm sorry, this is the 10th race, I should say, of segment 2. They've run 9 races here in segment 2. 3 of them have been won by this 18 machine of Robert Balcom, and now he's going to have to deal with some traffic. Terry Bauman and Bernie Mobs.
He got a little bit tight there, and Dante drove it down pretty hard and deep there. He's going to get some draft from Balcom off this point. It looks like it would benefit him a little bit better than Balcom, as Balcom is trying to struggle around Bernie Mobs. Good point to bring up, though, Seth. Next week, Bristol.
Oh, boy. Talk about a wild card race, and a race that's probably going to be all about track position as well, as Ricky is not going away. It's 2 laps to go this time by, and you mentioned about the 18 kind of having to slow up there and getting a little bit tight. Yeah, Michigan, dirty air. That's what Dante Ricky's having to deal with right now, trying to get some clean air to the nose of his number 84, and when the 18 got in the draft of the 69 and the 90, we saw how that really affected him.
Do you think you're going to catch those 2 in front of him? 2 cars in front of Robert?
They might.
We saw what happened after Robert got past Bernie and had to back off a little bit. Dante got right to his back bumper.
Well, I guarantee you that Terry Bombard is not going to try and help the 84 of Dante Ricky win this race, because he doesn't want to lose any more points to him. But that 7 of Cy Jones could be a wild card factor as the white flag is in the air.
It's been a really, really, really good last half of this race, and it's been really, really phenomenal. Nice, clean racing. We had a couple of hiccups, a couple of cautions, but this has been really good as they're about to come to the checkered this time, Seth. I mean, Dante's got not much more to do here. He's got to do it something.
Oh, he doesn't have enough space, I think, to be able to close up here, as Robert Balcom's going to look for his 4th win of the segment, 2nd win in the last 2 months here at Michigan, and he's going to head to the line, put Cy Jones down another lap for good measure, and takes the checkers here tonight in the Irish Hills.
And coming off of turn 4, 3rd place will go to Ronald Luzier, and 4th to Jim Cloud.
And looks like completing the top 5 is going to be Bob Seminara, who's all the way back on the back straightaway. I think when the leaders crossed the line, the 712 was over in turn 1. That just shows how spread out this field was, as Seminara, who spent most of his day at the back of the pack, we said he was going to be up in the top 5, probably in closing stages. He'll finally come to the line and complete the top 5 position.
Well, we said Seminary would probably go when it was time, and like I said, I saw him a little earlier when he was getting up there into the top 10. It was time.
Stefan Martel is going to finish in 6th. And I believe that 7th place Terry Bombard is going to be the last car on the lead lap. He just barely beat Robert Bauckham to the line. And Robert Bauckham going to burn it down here on the front straightaway at Michigan, and he will eventually pull that number 18 into victory lane for the 2nd time this season at Michigan.
Oh, that was a great race. That was a great race.
He's going to do some burnouts right there in victory lane as well. Why not?
Well, if it's possible, do it, right?
It is. Apparently there's either concrete or asphalt grip there to be able to do those burnouts. So more celebration here for Robert Bauckham. As we mentioned, his 4th win of the segment and 2nd win here at Michigan International Raceway.
The finishing order, Robert Bauckham does get that win, 4th win of the season, as you stated. Dante comes away in 2nd, barely missing out on getting a win, but increasing his point lead nonetheless. Ronald Luzier extends his point lead in the segment 2 standings, coming home 3rd. 4th will be Jim Glowden, the 72, who will gain quite a few points over into Bernie Mobbs in the segment 2 run. And top 5, as stated before, Bob Seminara. 6th, Stefan Martel. 7th, Terry Bombard, who was the last car on the lead lap. Then 1 lap down, Bernie Mobbs, Mark Paglia, and John Godfrey round out the top 10.
We had a number of drivers DNF from this race due to crash damage as well. Frank Rivard had a little bit of damage after a pit road incident.
I didn't see Tim retire. Wow.
Nofsker also retired, so those were the two that got together on pit road. Apparently, they felt that the pace was just too slow, so they called it a night. And a lot of other drivers involved in those first 5 cautions in the first half of this race also finished behind the wall. And of course, those 2 rounds of green flag pit stops is what really split the field up and had just a limited number of drivers finish on the lead lap.
Well, we saw it all, especially under the caution. We saw people stay out, people come in, people stay out even longer. Tires, no tires, based on the rule of this league of 4 sets of tires and winning team to take them. And fuel strategy, luckily, everyone made it to the end this time. And Dante can't blame it on that fuel this time, Seth, but
no, he can't.
He was close. He was close to getting that win.
Of course, too, he wants that checkered flag, but also big picture racing. He's going to gain points on Terry Bombard here today, with him finishing in 2nd and Bombard finishing back in the 7th position. So as he continues to kind of grow that points lead, as we're getting closer to the final 10 races of the season, I have no doubt that Dante will be more than pleased with a 2nd place run here this evening. He was really the only driver in those final stages that even had a shot of taking this win away from the 18 of Robert Bauckham. But let's get some words here with some of our top 3 finishers.
I've got news that Ronald Luzier will have Frank Rivard up here too when we interview him in a moment.
Okay, sounds good. And why don't we get a word with him, finishing top 3 here tonight at Michigan?
I'm getting Mr. Rivard. There's Mr. Rivard. Now I need to grab a hold of Mr. Ronald Luzier, and here you go, Seth.
All right, well, Ronald, a 3rd place run for you here this evening. We saw you up in the top 5 all night long, and you bring it home 3rd place here, a track you seem to do really well at.
Yes.
We saw you obviously on the long green flag runs having to make those pit stops. How difficult is it to pit at Michigan?
It's not too bad.
And obviously, we know you finished 2nd here at Michigan the last time that we were here, and you bring it home with another top 5. What is it about Michigan you like so much?
Is a wild track. Wild.
Well, Ronald, obviously great numbers for you here at Michigan. Congratulations on a great run here this evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now let's see if we can get our second place finisher here, if he's not in the middle of doing some last minute after race admining here. Let's see if we can get a word with.
I just tried to whisper Dante. Dante said to be quiet for just a moment, so I guess he's doing something.
All right, we'll
So
give him a chance here because, of course, Dante runs the league, so I know what it's like where you end up running a race and you got some stuff to do afterwards, some admin duties to do
yeah,
afterwards.
yeah,
So
we have to do that every Wednesday between us, and
yes, we do.
you have to do it most of the time on Saturdays, unfortunately.
So we will give Dante a couple of seconds here to be able to get that squared away before we talk to him. Why don't we see if
Okay,
actually
he's ready now.
he is
Apparently.
ready? So then let's get him in here.
You told me to be quiet, Dante, so I was trying to be waiting for you to tell me you were ready.
Well, Dante, I mean, I know obviously you wanted to be able to take the checkered flag here tonight, but you had a strong race car. You led quite a number of laps in this one. You were the only one that had a shot to be able to take the win away from Robert here, but you also get a lot of points over those drivers you're battling for the overall championship.
Wow, I'll tell you what, Seth and Jessica, this was an amazing night for the number 84 Overcome team. And just, Robert is an amazing driver. He's a clean racer. He had the car to beat tonight. My tire strategy was a little bit unusual. I took a set of tires early because I missed my pit stall and it wouldn't service me. So I drove around and came back in and took a couple sets of tires early. So I was really banking on the race going green. God bless it did, because if we had any caution there at the end, I would have been in trouble, being that I used up all of my tires. But man, I'll tell you what, the first long green flag run before the first green flag pit stop, I tried my hardest to get by Robert on the bottom because I knew I had about 4 or 5 laps fresher tires than he did at that point. And I went down to the bottom, and Jim Glad would follow me a couple laps, and Ron would go up, and then Jim would go back up, and I'd try to do it myself. I couldn't get by him on the bottom. I found out that working through traffic, it was a lot easier to pass on the top of the racetrack tonight, especially when I had a tire advantage early on. And the combination of using unconventional tire strategy and having really good clean pit stops from a good pit crew here really paid off tonight. And I tried my hardest to get a draft up on Robert and try and catch the lap cars at the right time, but I think we just didn't have enough for him. He's a great race car driver, and congratulations to him for the win.
I got to ask you too, Dante, just from a driver standpoint, we tried our best to kind of describe it here for the people watching, but you run with realistic damage. Does that in any way, shape, or form affect how the tires wear down as well?
I would think that it really makes the car push a lot more off of turn 2 and turn 4. If you have any slightest bit of damage to the fenders or, the side of the race car, especially the right side of the car, you're really going to push hard up off of those corners. And lucky for me, I was able to keep the car very clean tonight. We saw Timmy Nosker got some damage in the pit road from an unfortunate incident, and that pretty much took him out of contention to win. A lot of people with damage from the earlier crashes were impacted with, not being able to finish in the top 10 at least, and it showed. So any bit of damage really causes your car to tighten up and push more later in the run, which leads to more tire wear on that right front. And that right front tire was wearing quite a bit, even though I had a few laps advantage early on in the race. So yeah, I would think that the damage to some of those cars you saw tonight really did hurt the performance overall in the long run. And with 2 long runs, it was a lot of fun for the drivers. And having that fifth or sixth pit stall was also a very big advantage with the 65-mile-an-hour speed limit. I was able just to floor that thing out of the pit road, not have any worry. But that last pit stop, I knew I was going to get a good finish. I just didn't want to make any mistakes. So, you know, good race tonight. A lot of
Did
fun. Good finish.
was it your intention to pit when Robert pit, or were you thinking about trying to do something a little bit different on that last pit stop, Dante? Because that's what would make it or break it for you, I would believe.
Yeah, and I could have pitted a lap earlier or later than him, but I also know that depending on how the lap car situation worked out, I may have been able to pit a lap earlier or later and come out different from that situation, but the likelihood of making a mistake is greater when you take bigger risks. So that's the only downfall of it. So
And I do want to point out one small thing, Dante. You know how Seth mentioned that second, unfortunately, you didn't get that win that eluded you from earlier on in June, but you gained the points that you needed over Terry for the overall championship picture. But
yeah,
now you
Terry,
got what was that, Dante?
go ahead, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Um, but uh, but now you have to set your sights on Bristol. How is that going to translate to getting a really good run or get a good win? Are you actually going to try to push it to get up front early, or because it's a grip track? We know based on what you and I ran last night over in the California grip, tire wear is a big deal. So I mean, what do you mind sharing with us a little bit about idealistic of what your plan is to go into Bristol? Be up front the whole time, or just try to hit them where it hits based on your point cushion that you're going to have going in there?
Well, Bristol is a very tricky racetrack, and most of the time when I go to Bristol, I run in the fifth through 10th position, and I can have a shot at a top five finish or the win, but I have to reveal this. Unfortunately, the last three Bristol races I've competed in, unfortunately, I have finished with a one lap penalty. So we really cannot make any mistakes next week. We've got to stay out of trouble and keep the race car clean. I think that's the most important thing over anything else.
I'll give you a little hint here, Dante. Another league that we do, a guy that ends up winning quite a bit, says he doesn't like the tracks that they were going to, and he ends up winning those races. So maybe if you don't like Bristol, maybe your luck will change.
Oh yeah, I'm hopeful that we're going to have a good race next week. We just got to keep it clean. And Terry Bombard had a really fast race car tonight. He led some laps there, early to middle part of the race, and I think that he just got on the wrong side of the strategy, and that things happen. So, but he's always going to be fast, and he's a great competitor. And I'm looking forward to being able to race with him again next week and through the rest of the season.
Well, Dante, a second place run for you here this evening. As Justin and I both have said, you've got some maximum points here tonight as far as opening your points gap a little bit more between yourself and Terry for that overall championship. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Oh, I'd just like to thank all my family, my mom, dad, brother, sister, and all of my friends that support me and help me get through my life and everything. And special shout out to my soccer friends. I did some soccer games tonight and had a lot of fun. And also gotta thank Terry Boutman and David Cannon and Sean Prime and our RTG owners and all of the admins that I work with day in and day out every week here at RTG. It's a great place to race, and I have a lot of fun here. So hope to keep doing that again.
That's Dante Ricky. He brings it home second place here tonight at Michigan. Congrats on a great run. And again, best of luck to you at the Concrete Mile, the last great Coliseum of Bristol next week.
One more shout out, Seth. Um, I know Mr. Tony Fox, our good friend at Admin on Wednesday night, has been in the hospital, and we're thinking about you, Tony. Just wanted to say, you know, we're praying for you every day. Hope you can get back in soon and pull through it.
Absolutely. Well, congrats on a great run, Dante.
Thank you.
And that was Dante. Now, you ready to get a hold of the race winner stuff?
Let's go down to victory lane, why don't we?
Robert, can we stop interviewing you? Can you stop winning everything every time we broadcast, buddy?
I would rather not, to be honest with you.
Well, Robert, I mean, back to back here at Michigan. You won about a month and a half ago here at this track.
Back to back.
Yeah, back to back to back. You won about a month and a half ago here, and now you end up winning it here. Tonight, you also end up winning over, I believe, in another league as well in the trucks. I mean, what is it about Michigan you seem to love so much?
Well, first thing I want to do is I want to send our prayers out to one of our good drivers here, Tony Fox. Just an amazing guy. Met him through this league. I know he's going through a lot of health issues right now, so I just want him to know we're thinking about him. And also, my wife, she had her surgery, removing some cancer, and it didn't go as good as we thought it would. So definitely want to send my prayers out to both of them. But yeah, as far as the track goes, I love Michigan. I'm all about saving tires, and Michigan, you can really roll out the throttle and let the car kind of just float through the corner and just kind of ease throttle and keep the tire temps down, and then just kind of ride there. I was really just riding the whole pretty much first 15 laps, and then uh, to me, you want to maybe like the last 10 laps of the run, you want to be out front because the air does play factor, and that dirty air, you can put it on the guy behind you's nose, and it just makes him push so bad. So to me, I try to plan out where at least the last 10 laps I could hopefully be out front and not have to worry about that dirty air making my car push.
Yeah, you talk about that. I mean, we saw in the closing stages you reeled in some slower traffic, and we saw your car actually start pushing up there. How bad did you feel that aero push?
Well, yeah, I was actually as I called him, I kind of rolled out early because I didn't want to pick that throttle up, and they're racing for position too, so I don't want to take that away from them, and I don't expect them to just stop. Just hey, these guys racing, let them go. So I expect them to race too. So I wanted to make sure I gave them plenty of room, not push up into them. At the same time, I wanted to make sure I got the good run off because I knew when you're side by side with a car, the guy behind you is going to really suck up on you. So I wanted to make sure I could get a good run off and try to get them clear as fast as I could because Dante is a great competitor. He's really tough on these tracks here, so I knew that I was going to have to keep that dirty air on him the whole time, and just kind of be smooth and not, hit my marks every time. And because if I knew if I gave him one little hole, he's going to stick it in there.
Robert, I have to ask you, did you have your good luck charm on your lap tonight, looking and watching?
Yeah, I always have to do that. She's in there with her too. But I got to run some laps with you, Jessica, in practice, and it was fun, kind of getting out there and messing around with you. I wish you'd run the race.
You were messing with me. Okay,
Well,
I thought you
I
were
was
at least
breaking.
trying things.
Oh no,
Okay.
I was breaking the draft with you just to see how the car reacted. But you were really good, so I would have liked to seen you out here. I think you could have gave us a good run for our money.
Nah, I know what I'm out talented. It's okay.
Oh no.
Well, Robert, obviously, it's interesting when we go back to that last Michigan race here in the Winston Cup Series. You ended up only leading 16 laps. Tonight, you were able to lead 52 laps. Was there like anything that you learned from the first Michigan race that you were then able to apply in this one that was able to keep you out in front as long as you were?
Well, the last one actually had to start dead last because of the what I'd won the week before, and this one I actually got to qualify. And to be honest, I'm not a really good qualifier at all. So when I started on the outside front row, it kind of floored me a little bit there. But I knew Tim would probably be the one to beat for the pole. Tim is tough at these kind of tracks. I hate to see him get damaged. I know he would have been a tough competitor. I hate to see it. There was quite a few drivers that got damaged. I think that could have really might have probably changed the outcome. So I hate to see anybody have any kind of damage like that.
Well, Robert, obviously, a great win for you here tonight, a dominating performance as well. You bring up the great point of the fact that you were able to have that starting track position here as opposed to that other Michigan race. And at this point in time now, I believe in the three Michigan races that we've done for RTG, not over here, only over here for the Winston Cup Series, but over for the Bare Bones Racing League as well. You've been able to take the checkered flag. So congrats on a great win here this evening. We're going to let you do some shout outs now.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that. And yeah, I know. I wish I could get y'all to come over some more races, but definitely want to give a shout out to you guys at Flatout Racing Network. Do a great job broadcasting. I actually have y'all in one of my ears while I'm racing, at the same time listening to it. And then want to give a shout out to David Cannon. All the guys over here at RTG. I mean, they just give us a amazing place to race. If you're out there, you want to look into getting in this game, definitely give Rolling Thunder Gaming a chance. I mean, it's just great competition here, great competitors. Also want to give a shout out to my cousin Patrick Fed. I know he's watching at home. He's cheering me on. He's texting me while I'm racing, so I want to give a shout out to him. And then I want to give a shout out to my two biggest fans there is, my wife and daughter. Even though my wife, as sick as she is, she's still downstairs cheering me on while I'm racing, watching the broadcast. So it's hard to beat that. And my little girl Caitlin, I let her stay up on these nights late for school just so she can finish watching the race. So I appreciate them being there for me at all times and letting me do what I enjoy.
Well, Robert, obviously, congratulations on a great win. Just on a personal note, just letting you know, we'll be thinking and praying for your wife as well. Pretty great that you're able to kind of in tribute to her here tonight to be able to pick up this victory. So, congrats on a great run here tonight at Michigan.
Oh, I appreciate that. It means a lot. Yes, I definitely want to dedicate this one to her and Tony Fox. Definitely.
I do want to point out that I think we're probably going to get a bribe to pretty much broadcast every race that Robert runs so he can win every single one.
Hey, if I thought that would work, don't think I wouldn't try it.
Well, that's Robert Baucom. He takes the checkered flag here tonight at Michigan. Congrats, man.
Thank you, guys.
So our coverage concludes here from Michigan with Robert Baucom dominating this race, leading 52 of the 88 laps and leading, of course, the all-important final laps here. Jess, you already touched on it, the fact that with Dante getting the second place run, Terry struggling a little bit to be able to bring it home in the 7th position. The gap does open for the overall points lead, but you mentioned it makes it really interesting the shakeup in the top 4 for the segment 2-point standings.
Yeah, that is true, but based on like what we were saying, for example, with Dante said that his overall love for Bristol isn't really too high up there on that love hate, for the love part of the scale. So, with that being said, I asked him, what do you want to do? Do you want to go out there and try to push it, or do you want to go back and relax? Because if you think about it, you gain points. Now, do you want to play conservative and try to hold on to some points, or do you want to go all out and possibly risk getting wrecked and losing all those points you just gained?
Yeah.
I mean, Bristol's coming up next week for these guys, and I mean, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what's going to happen coming out of that. I mean, we say Dante's got the lead over Terry at the moment, but like you mentioned, segment 2, we saw the 72 of Jim Glaude. He came in with a vengeance. He gained positions, and he gained a lot of points going up to Ron Loser, but Ronald actually gained quite as much as well. So the big hitter right there would be the 90 of Bernie Miles, unfortunately, in that one.
Yeah, and also the fact too, it may be a now over 50-point gap between Dante Ricky back to Terry Bombard, but there's still 13 races left to go in this season. And you mentioned before, I think, to Dante about the fact that Bristol is such a tire killer. I mean, look at some of the other tracks that are coming right after that. New Hampshire, tire killer. Darlington, tire killer. Richmond, tire killer. Dover, tire killer. I mean, it really are all a bunch of tracks that come down to tire conservation. So, yes, he does have some points to be able to work with, but to your point, in those 5 weeks coming up, he's kind of got to do the risk reward. Do I be aggressive, use up my tires, try and keep track position,
And
maybe wreck myself out and lose points?
Well, if you also think about it, what did we mention earlier on? Realistic damage, realistic weather, and then the big one, 4 sets of tires only.
Absolutely. So, it is not over, folks. This season is not over by a long shot. Anything in these final 13 races can still happen.
And I also want to bring up that we will be broadcasting here on RTG on Thursday for the Talladega Challenge Series, the season finale of that one, I believe. And Grant Wet, a few of these drivers looking for the championship here and to cap off a really great season. And then we're not going to be doing anything on Monday because Grant Wesley, congratulations to him, wrapping up the title over in the Barebone Series on Monday. Like we said, Tuesday next week, they will be going back to, they're going to Bristol, and they're going to have a race there, and then we'll take a break and see what happens on our schedule from that point. I think you've got the schedule pretty much ahead of what's coming up on that. I don't know about their Friday schedule, about their iRacing Dirt Series over here, but anyway, Seth, it was great. It was a great race in my opinion tonight, calling it at Michigan. It was really interesting to see tire wear and then the backing off and the mind games playing coming down pit road, especially under cautions, and see what was going to happen. I mean, like we said earlier, you come over here, you'll learn things.
You definitely do, and very much so a typical Michigan type race as well. First half of the race, drivers, they test the waters. They see what their cars are able to do, whether the track's going to give them the grip going into the corners to make the double wide or three wide moves. Then we get to the second half of the race. They know what they've got. They know what the track conditions are like. We settle into the long green flag run. We had those 2 rounds of green flag pit stops. So very similar to what we're used to seeing when we come to Michigan. Now, do not quote me on this. I believe this is the final 4 that we're going to be seeing battle for the championship on Thursday night in the final race of the season for the Talladega Challenge. I believe it is Grant Wesley, Joe DeSpirito, Richard Martin, and Bob Seminara that are going to be battling out. If I am incorrect, then obviously the correction will be made on
It's all
Thursday
Seth's
night.
fault.
It is. I wouldn't be the first time I've been wrong with who's advanced into a certain round of the playoffs, but I think those are the 4. We'll find out if it's officially that when we get to Thursday
And
night.
also we want to bring up that Dante. I mean not Dante, but we had Robert win tonight, and he's already a repeat winner. Hopefully maybe someone new can win on Thursday, because we need to bring this up. The All-Star Open is right around the corner, especially that All-Star race, and then we've also got the invitational of a few races that are going to be broadcasted here on RTG.
That's correct. Yes, I believe that
I meant FRN. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to get killed by Matt now for that.
I believe those events that you're talking about, they're going to be on the week of August 23rd. I believe Wednesday on the 26th is when the Open, the Invitational is run, and the 27th is when that All-Star race will be. And then, of course, as well, next week we've got some more RTG action that's going to be taking place as well. The Bombard brothers, Terry and Mitch, they're going to be running 4 races during the course of next week. FRN's going to have the call on 2 of them. Thursday, August 20th, they're going to have the trucks at RTG Motor Speedway, and then Friday, August 21st, we're seeing the trucks again, but this time it will be at RTR Super Speedway. So should be some good truck races there. As far as the iRacing side, to finish out the weekend, we've got on Friday the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. They're going to be going left and right at the road course of Watkins Glen in upstate New York. And then we've got a double feature on Saturday, as the CNASCAR Chris Cup Series will be at Chicagoland. Soda Guys Cup Series, they'll be at Watkins Glen for that one. So a lot of stuff coming up this week, as well as the 2 following weeks, especially on the NR side for RTG.
And like I said, got a little bit of time left to see who wants to get on that All-Star race, to see if they can lock it in for a first-time winner.
Absolutely. So should be a good couple of weeks here on Flatout Racing Network. Some great broadcasts coming up, some great racing with some great leagues as well. But Jess, appreciate you joining me here tonight. It's been a blast here at Michigan. 88 laps of absolutely insane action, and glad you were here with me for that.
Well, I'm glad to be here with you for this, because remember, this is labeled as a makeup event, and unfortunately with the last couple of mishaps, I was part of it, even though it wasn't technically my fault, Mary. But anyway, you get the point. I mean, at least Mary didn't walk in front of the router again.
She didn't. I had to battle a thunderstorm, hoping my internet didn't die, but we made it through. And we
we made it through. No hiccups this time, hopefully, and everything is great, and hopefully this makes up big time for the issue we had last time.
Hopefully this sets a trend where we finally have gotten through all of the
issues. Hey, I haven't flipped the FRN car for the past 2 weeks, so there's a trend starting.
Hey, I may flip the FRN car Thursday night. We'll wait and see if I'm able to take part in that one. But thank you, everybody that tuned in this evening to tonight's event from Michigan. Hope you guys enjoyed it. And again, for more RTG stuff, we've got the Tally Challenge finale on Thursday and more stuff coming up in the next 2 weeks. But for Jessica Shelton, I'm Seth Cole. Good evening from the Irish Hills of Michigan. Robert Bauckham is your winner in the RTG Winston Cup Series. And as always, you've been watching a broadcast courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.
And the second-year rookies.